Hey, hi folks, this is Kanishk here. I hope you all are having a good day. So in this video, we'll be looking into how to use React developer tools to analyze our app's rendering performance. So I'll be diving deep hands-on on how what all components the tool has to provide and what each of those components actually signify, right? Before I get started, there are like a few prerequisites which are needed. So first thing is a basic understanding of React.js, and then we'll need a working React app that we'll be using for profiling. So I've also shared the link to the application that I've used in this video. Then the next and the most obvious thing is the React Developer Tools extension. So it's available in Chrome, Mozilla, and most of the major browsers. So I've already installed it, so I won't go into the installation and all. But I hope you'll install this normally, just like you do for any other extension in Chrome. I think that is most of the things that we'll need to get started. Yeah, to give you a basic idea of the application that I'll be using in this video. So this is the most basic or like the simplest application that you can think of. So it's a simple shopping list where I've added like 5 items by default. And whenever you click on any of these items, this edit would update to represents the item label. And say if you make any change here and save it, then this would show up in the list. And looking into the code for this one, so this is the app component, like the main parent component, and this is rendering two components. One is the item list component, and then the edit item component. So we're looking little bit into the item list component. So mostly it's just nothing but a normal list that it is rendering, and then the edit item component has an input and a button save for saving the item. Yeah. Let's move into profiling then. So the first thing that I'll have to do to start profiling this application is say, you can right click and click on inspect. Yeah. So you can see there will be there's two tabs, components and profiler. So one thing is this two tabs will only show up once you install the extension. If you haven't installed it, these two components won't be showing up. Also, now once you move to the profiler tab, you can see there is a settings button here. Once you click there, you'll be able to see this pop-up. So before I get started with the profiler, I would want you to like enable this checkbox. So what it does is it already says like record why each component rendered while profiling. So basically, if you enable this, it would also show why a particular component rendered. Like what was the reason? Was there a prop change or some hook change? So that is why I enabled it. So I think yeah, let's start the profiling then. So to start profiling this application, what you have to do is you'll have to click this blue button here. So once you click here, it would change to this red, and it indicates that like the profiling has started. And now say whatever actions you perform in this application, right? So the profiler is actually recording those. So I'll do a few operations. For every operations that you do, React profiler is actually keeping track of those updates. So I'm done. I'll just stop the profiling. So I've stopped the profiling and you can see it shows a few graph and all. So if you're coming to this tab for the first time, lot of these things could seem alien to you. So I'll be diving into each of this one by one, what all these components do and what is the significance of each of these, right? So let's start one by one. So as you see, there are like three tabs here: flame graph, rent, and timeline. So first, let's look into flame graph. So flame graph basically what it does, it will show the like the component tree for which the rendering happened, right? So for a specific commit. So as you know that in React, like the things happen in two phases. At first is the render phase and then the commit phase. So for each commit, the flame graph shows what the component hierarchy, like which component rendered and why it rendered. So for this example, if you see the app component rendered, and this app component had two child, item list and edit item. And once you hover over them, you will also be able to see like why did this render, right? It says like the prop change. And say if I hover over edit item, it says that okay, this was the first time that this component rendered. And if you click on any of this item component, right? So it is like it is in a way you're zooming into that component, and say in a scenario where my item list component would have had some child components, right? So it would focus only on those components. So say once I click on item list, it shows that why it rendered, like the prop selected item changed, and it also shows the time at which it rendered. So let me go back and click on app. So now, what is the representation of this graph, right? What does the color and what does the length represent? So mostly like the yellower it gets, it is actually showing that it is taking more time to render. So the like the app component, if you see, it's like the yellower in this entire graph, right? So this indicates that this took the longest to render. and then this is like a slightly less yellow, and like the more it moves towards blue, it means like the time taken to render is less. So basically, if you have to summarize, right, say I'll just take a screenshot of this, paste it here. So I have to say yellow is bad, and the more blue it's good. So there is also another state which is like the gray. Gray state is basically did not render. So let's look into that. Say Yeah, say if I move to any other commit, so it shows that my app component is grayed out, right? So what it means is, in this particular commit, my app component did not render, but it was just the edit item component which rendered. So that is the significance of gray. Okay. So the next thing that you see in this tab, right? So there is this another graph that you see on the top. So this is also following the same color convention. It is, if you see, it's yellow and then it's going slightly less yellow, red, and then blue. So the color convention is similar, but what this one represents is. So I'll again take a snippet of this one. So this is also representing a similar thing, but the say the yellower it gets, it is signifying that it's taking longer to render, and also like the length of this bar, right? Each bar, like the longer it is, like the more time it is taking to render. So just like yellow is a metric here, length is also another metric, right? So the longer it is, the longer is worse, and like the shorter it gets, it's better. So yeah, so looking into each of these commits, so what do this each bar represent? Right? So every bar here represents a commit. So in this entire profiling period, like whatever we profiled in this entire period, it did like the React did 20 commits, and each of this commit is represented by this bar. Say if I click on any of this, so this is like the second commit which happened, and in the second commit, only this particular edit item component entered. So this way, in a way, like you can just go over and traverse over all the commits and see which commit, what exact component rendered, or which is the component which is rendering most of the times in multiple different commits, right? So in a way, that could be like a signal to you that okay, this is the component. So my edit item component is rendering in most of the commits, right? So in a way, that is a signal that okay, this edit item component is my culprit behind multiple renders. So you can look into if there is any way that you can optimize it, say maybe memorize it, or maybe move the state up. So every bar here represents a commit. Yeah, so this is mostly the reason why we have this flame graph. So it shows the component tree and what all components rendered in each particular commit. Then I'll move to the next step. So the next step is what the name suggests, right? It's called rank. So what it does is it's similar to flame graph only, but like the reason or purpose of rank chart is that it ranks the components, right? Say in the first commit, it will show like which component took the highest time to render. So in the first commit, my app component was the one which took the longest time to render. So it is on the top. So the ones which are on the top here are actually the ones which are bad in terms of performing bad in terms of performance compared to other components. So I'll move to some other commit. Say yeah, say any of this comment, only this component rendered, so there is nothing to be relative, or there is no comparison because this was the only component which rendered. And say here, say this comment is a little interesting. So if you see, both edit item and app both rendered, but here both the components are taking almost the same time. So this is basically like a ranking of which component took more time to render in a specific commit. So this is the purpose of rank chart. And I think mostly these are the main two graphs that are needed while analyzing the performance. So there is also another feature which would come handy. So we have this feature called save profile and load profile. So what it allows us to do is say I want to save this profiling session and I want to share it with someone, right? So he or she can also then say what I can do is I can just save this profile. So it will save a JSON, and then I can share this JSON to someone else, and he or she can then load this same JSON and see and visualize the same profiling session in his or her machine. So this tool could also come handy while using the profiler. Yeah, I think that was all about this video. So yeah, one thing before I wrap up is this was my first video in YouTube. So I would really appreciate some feedback, like what all I can improve on, and what all type of videos that you would like to see in future. Yeah, thank you.